Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 Word. Now, as I'm sure you'll remember, just a few weeks ago it was confirmed by Renault that Esteban Ocon would be joining Daniel Ricciardo at the team for 2020. That decision left Nico Hulkenberg looking for a race seat for next season. It did look at one point as though his most likely destination would be Haas, especially given that reports at the time were pretty adamant Romain Grosjean was set to be dropped. However, Haas have since confirmed that they will be sticking with their two drivers for at least one more season. So where does that leave Hulkenberg then? Well, I mean, obviously out of an F1 seat if you can't find one. And with just 4 teams officially yet to confirm their lineups for 2020, there aren't really that many options out there for him. First up are Red Bull. There were rumours circulating long before the Renault news came out that Nico was being lined up by Red Bull to replace Pierre Gasly for next season, but Helmut Marko at the time poured a fair bit of cold water over those rumours, and it all went very quiet on that front. Gasly, though, lost his seat at the main team during the summer break, and that reignited the rumours, with Renault's eventual announcement then adding fuel to that fire. Now, I'm sure Hulkenberg would absolutely love a move to Red Bull and the chance to fight at the very sharp end of the grid, but I just do not believe it will happen. I mean, for starters, Marko has already said that Daniel Ricciardo is confirmed internally as staying at Toro Rosso for next season, and that the fight, if you like, to be Max Verstappen's teammate is between Albon and Gasly. So based on that alone, Nico's chances of landing that seat are surely gone. That being said, I'm talking about accepting the word of a man who emphatically denied that Pierre Gasly would be dropped before the end of the season, before dropping him about a week later. So I guess with Marko, you just never know, and therefore anything is still possible. But I absolutely do not expect to see Nico Hulkenberg driving a Red Bull next season. Next up, naturally, are Toro Rosso, but with Fiat apparently all but confirmed to be staying with them for 2020, that is already 1 seat filled. Plus, you would assume whichever one out of Gasly and Albon doesn't get that second seat at Red Bull will probably end up with the second Toro Rosso seat, therefore all but confirming their lineup. Again, never say never, but yeah, not a likely destination for Nico at the moment. Alpha are also yet to make their call. Kimi Räikkönen is signed up for next season, so unless he decides out of the blue that he's done with F1, and I can't see him doing that, then that's 1 seat already filled. As for the second seat, well, for me, Antonio Giovinazzi is improving and is putting in some pretty decent performances. So I feel like he will get another year with Alpha. The key thing to remember about Gio's seat, though, is that that is the drive that Ferrari hold the option over. Therefore, if Alpha want to bring Hulkenberg's experience to the team to add to that of Kimi's, they would need Ferrari to give up that option for 2020, and that is unlikely. The Scuderia have already put their backing behind Gio and are pushing that he needs support and confidence narrative. And that's another reason why I think he's probably safe for another year. If you add to that as well the apparent strength of the Ferrari driver academy, I can't see why they would want to relinquish control over that seat. Even if Gio isn't the one, he could keep that seat warm with one of their young drivers jumping in it for 2021. And actually, if next year he went on to do enough in Alpha's eyes, maybe he could take Kimi's seat if he decides to leave, and then the Ferrari young driver or a Ferrari young driver can hop into Gio's old seat. So as much as a Räikkönen Hulkenberg lineup would be really, really beneficial to Alpha, it's another move that I just can't see happening. So I guess all of that leaves Williams as Nico's most likely destination if he wants to stay in F1 after this season. The thing is though, if it's true that he is commanding a high salary, there is just no way I can see the team taking him on. Remember, this is a team that last weekend had to retire a car in Russia to conserve parts due to a lack of spares. How on earth are they going to pay the kind of money that Hulkenberg is probably asking for? They just aren't going to do it. At the end of the day, that is why they are looking at the likes of Latifi, drivers who will bring a nice chunk of money with them. And so sticking one alongside George Russell is the most likely outcome there. And I do still think, by the way, that it will be Latifi that gets that seat. And from a Hulkenberg point of view, I know I've said this before, but does he really want to make the move to Williams knowing it's highly probable he will spend next season trundling around at the back battling for very little but pride against his teammate? Honestly, I just can't see it at all. Which I guess taking all of that into account means that in my view his F1 career is over, for now anyway. You never know, he may be back in 2021 if seats open up and midfield teams perhaps look for some experience when the rules change. But for next year at least he will need to look somewhere else. He doesn't, by the way, strike me as a driver that would be content in any development role. That being said though, he could take one of those roles and race in another series at the same time. I suppose therefore at least keeping his foot in the F1 door. IndyCar would be a good fit for him on paper, but he's already turned down McLaren's offer to race for them next year, saying that although he has huge respect for the drivers racing on ovals, it's not his thing. Obviously, that's totally fine if he feels that way, but I personally think that would be a really good opportunity for him to race in a competitive series and keep good ties to F1 at the same time. Then again, I suppose if it's not for him, then it's not for him. There are apparently a number of Formula E teams interested in signing the German, yet it would actually take quite a U-turn, given that not all that long ago he described the series as, quote, not exactly exciting. He also said just last week, actually, that no talks had been held with any Formula E teams. But there are, at time of recording at least, still seats available at BMW, Mahindra and NIO. Other than IndyCar and Formula E, there are the likes of DTM and WEC, both of which, of course, could be options. And he did win Le Mans in 2015 with Porsche as well, didn't he? So he's got some ties there. And I do get the feeling that it's probably most likely between endurance racing and Formula E for 2020. I mean, perhaps he will take one of those Mahindra seats, although BMW might also be a very tempting prospect. With Maxi Gunter already confirmed, that would give them an all-German lineup, so they might be chasing Nico. On all of that, we'll see, I guess, but Nico has recently said that his future plans will be confirmed in the coming weeks, so I guess watch this space. Ultimately, the fact of the matter is his Formula 1 opportunities are limited, and as I've already said, in my view, he's unlikely to be racing in F1 next year, which is honestly a real shame. Alright, no, he hasn't ever stood on the podium, which according to some is the only way to define a driver's talent. I can only assume they believe Lance Stroll is a far superior driver to Nico, given that he has actually made it to the podium, which is interesting, but anyway. And yeah, I know there is a lot of young talent out there that deserve their chance as well, and you could say that Nico has had his chance. But what he does bring is a lot of experience, a hell of a lot of consistency, and with that in mind, he could well be a huge benefit to a number of teams in that midfield. So yeah, absolutely it's disappointing for me that he won't be on the grid next year, especially, and here's a line I use all the time, when you consider some of the drivers who will be. But that's the cutthroat business that is Formula 1, and with just 20 seats available, something has got to give, and this time around, it's Nico Hulkenberg. And you know, although I don't think he will be in F1 next year, I'm absolutely certain that he will pick up a seat and be racing somewhere next year. You know, as much as I love Formula 1, it's not the be-all and end-all for racing drivers. There are plenty of other series out there. But then now I'm going to go on and probably contradict myself by saying that just because he misses out on a seat for 2020, that does not mean that his F1 career is totally over. Plenty of drivers have come and gone in the past, and you never know, he could be back. Not that he's actually left the sport yet, there is still plenty of time for him to land a seat in F1, but I'd be surprised to see him on the grid next year. That is it then for this video, but in the top right of the screen you can vote on a poll. I know, right? Really exciting. Simply put, where do you think Nico Hulkenberg will be racing in 2020? And you can also let me know your thoughts on his future or indeed his F1 career down in the comment section. Now, I will be back soon with more content as ever. In the meantime, though, don't forget that you can follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.